Hey everybody, what's going on? It's John here in the dark, dank office. I should say the dark, dank basement that I call my office. So this week's video, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. Girls are out of town. I've been left on my own. It's hot outside. Kept the farm work to a minimum. One, because I'm home alone and I'll do something ridiculously stupid and it'll be a couple days before somebody finds me laying out on the farm. So I've been trying to do a little work down here in my shop. Aside from the farm, I have other hobbies, one of which is woodworking, and I would desperately love to start doing that again. So you're gonna see me start doing some things this week to get me closer to getting back into that. Got a pretty good bit done on this holiday weekend. It is Labor Day today. It is miserably hot outside. The big goings on around the farm are just keeping up with water. The pigs are hot, and man, it's probably 4 or 5 times a day I've walked out and just made sure they've had access to water. You know, if you've watched any of our previous videos, we've been running out of water here on the farm. So you know, I keep it as clean and fresh as I can. Normally first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening, I hose out the buckets and give them fresh water. During the day, most of the time they're, you know, first pig to it normally is just laying in it. So I try to, you know, to make sure they're all getting a drink, staying cool. Let's get this video rolling. Thank y'all for joining me. All right, well, we're here on the homestead in my basement workshop, which is a mess. But we have what we refer to as the death stairs. And what this is basically is in our dining room upstairs here. There was a closet and a hole was cut in the floor so they could build a set of stairs that came down into the basement. So I am about to take these stairs out and open up this corner. I'll put a floor back in that upstairs and turn that back into a closet. So we really don't use these stairs very often at all. And I had to put a latch on the bottom of the closet door to keep the cats from getting in here because they'll just come down here and act a fool and make a mess of everything. So yeah, it's time for these to go. I'm gonna try to reuse as much of this wood as I can. Hopefully to put the floor back in the closet up there. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm working on here around the homestead today. All right, so I apologize for the mess. So this is what would have been the old winter kitchen. So cook's fireplace here. The death stairs were in this corner. I think I've already got some video that showed them before I started ripping them out, but I got on a roll. You know, we call them the death stairs. They were fine. They just weren't a set of stairs that were meant to go in that spot. And it was just space that I wanted to reclaim. It stays real wet in that corner, so I want to finish getting these 2x4s out, which are kind of attached to the ground there. Once I get those out of the way, I'm going to clean up in there, vacuum and whatnot, and I'll probably move my shelving over into that spot for now. But there's some water access there. There's actually a spigot for a hose, and then there's a drain for the radiators and all of that. So it'll be good to have this corner to get some light back in this corner. Now you can see where they had come in, and I say they, I don't know who did this. Cut a hole in the floor. I mean, you can see how thick those floorboards were. Those are easy an inch thick. But, you know, it was an old closet. They still got the bar there where coats and stuff would hang on the door. And I got a little latch on it right here that kept the cats, because one cat can flip the little handle and open the door. But anyway, I'm gonna see if I can take some of these straight boards that were made up the stairs and see if I can't slide those in here and get a floor back on this. At least close up that hole for now. Like I said, there's not going to be anything in here but coats and some storage. But you know, I got some of my hand tools down here. I need to clean up some of this. You know, it's an old space. I mean, it's brick floor here. I'm sorry, it's cleaner than it was. I hate to say that. I've started moving a bunch of my stuff out of the barn. I just built this little workbench here a few weeks ago. Started hanging up some tools and getting some things set up. Now, where I used to live, I had a pretty decent setup for woodworking. And when we moved here on the farm, I didn't have any of that. This space was occupied. It's not been occupied for a while now. I finally started getting my behind down here and doing some cleanup. It's not really from a power standpoint set up to run a lot of woodworking tools. I would like to do more of the traditional woodworking. Like I said, I got a mess of hand planes here, up there. I got draw knives and spoke shaves. I mean, you name it, I probably got it in here. I got a ton of number 5 jack planes. I'm gonna try to take all of those and make at least a couple decent number 5s, and then I'll have some extra blades and stuff like that that I can sharpen and have set aside. My vision is to build a large workbench right here in the middle that I can do, you know, working on a couple leg vices, you know, a tail vice. So I have some pieces and parts for a woodworking bench that are still out in the barn. But I got like my compressor, generator, bunch of tools. It stays kind of damp down here. It's not too bad. But I mean, all of this is below grade. So, you know, the dirt on the outside comes down. Actually, nah, that's probably not a good representation, but you know, it's going to come up. So at least a lot of this back here. And then there's another room over here. I have my desk, and power comes into the house back over there in that corner. So yeah, it's you know, it's a work in progress. Amanda's probably going to kill me for showing you all this while it's in this state, but you know, I'm working on it right now. So anyway, I'm going to get these boards cleaned up, and then I'm going to start taking some measurements and seeing what I can do about getting that hole closed up. And you know, I'm going to have to do a lot of vacuuming. Anyway, old house living. These walls down here are, I'm guessing, just as thick as the ones upstairs, probably about 18 inches thick. Yeah, just a cool old space. All right, so those are out. I got some nails in the wall here I'm gonna pull. Now, as you can see, everything that was touching the ground is rotting. This corner stays damp, so it'll be good. I got the blower going over there. Obviously, it's got a bunch of crap in the way, but I'm gonna set up my ladder and start working on this, get this corner cleaned out. I got some nails in the wall to pull, bracket there that needs to come off. There's the water hookups and drains that I was telling you about. It's a pretty good sized space down here. I would say this is probably, I mean, a 20-foot wide room going this way, and maybe a couple feet less going the other way. And there's really not that much stuff. A lot of this is trash, things as a cleanup. It's getting ready to go to the landfill. So Give me about 3 more years and this place will look probably not much different than it does right now. Anyway, let me get back to work. Try to give you a better idea of the size of the space here. I mean, once again, if I could stand up straight, 6'3", so you know you got a good 6 foot right here, and then 8.5 foot up to the floor of that closet. So pretty good sized space here. You know, it's right beside the chimney. Once this dries out a little bit back here, I can clean it up a little bit more. It really wasn't too bad. A bunch of spiders. Now, one of my fun stories about this room is I got called down here one time because there were snakes coming out of the wall, and literally there were holes in the brick, and there were they're called ringneck snakes, and a mature one only gets about so long, so they're not big snakes by any means. But I grabbed them and kept pulling until I pulled the snakes out of the wall, and then I went out and dropped them out by the road. They were coming through somewhere right in here. Some of those holes have been filled up at this point. But yeah, it was kind of some Indiana Jones stuff going on with freaking snakes coming out of the wall. I mean, I'm not scared of snakes. I don't mess with them. I shouldn't say that. Every now and then I'll catch a garter snake or something here on the farm, and I'll come up and show Clara because she's fascinated by snakes, and then I'll let it go and all that. And actually, we just had one shed a skin right here by the shop. This isn't a big one, it's at 3 feet. Now, the ringnecks aren't venomous. Caught them, took them out, let them go. We did catch a baby on the floor right up above us trying to crawl across the hardwood. All right, so taking a look at this as we climb the mighty ladder, you'll see what we got inside the closet here. So there's some space back here. Anytime you got an old house, you're gonna see where mice and stuff have chewed little paths under the doors. So if I'm gonna use these boards that I have and mount them on top of this, which is the easier thing to do, then I'm gonna have to trim the bottom of this door. Not gonna have to trim it much. I mean, it's not gonna be a overly difficult task, I guess, to maybe run some 2x4s across and just lay boards down in this. But I'm afraid we're gonna have some big gaps because this isn't cut straight, and I darn sure don't have boards that are this thick. Paneling inside the closet here. Of course, this is the back side. It looks better on the other side. Looks like you can see some lines on this where they drew out some stringers for some stairs. All right, well, I stepped back and took another look at this. You can see where they cut the timber there. So I'm gonna run a piece of wood and join those two back up, and then I'll see how I wanna do the rest of that. I mean, if I tool around with it long enough, I'll eventually get something that'll close up that hole, and hopefully won't be a death trap. All right, well, here's what I come up with. I got a board run across here, and actually when I screwed in from the top and drew that up, it kind of leveled all these boards back out. Got a little board sandwiched in there, and then I've run this one between those two boards that were cut. So I'm gonna go up top and screw down into those. You're still gonna have a gap, probably about 1/4 inch, where these boards that I'm using just aren't as thick as the originals. But at least it closes in that hole for now. Definitely not airtight, but it's a closet. We can do something from the top side, I guess. I still got a few more nails to put in here, and ultimately I may put a big lag screw in. I don't think I need it. It's not going to see a lot of traffic, but we shall see. But yeah, that turned out considerably better than I thought I would. Than I thought it would, than I thought I would do. So it's done, and I pretty much used everything that come off the stairs, minus the screws. So, and this 2x6 I already had. So the rest of this, I think, is going to be winter projects. Might make some bird houses out of those. All right, so we're inside the house now, and well, dadgum, there's a floor. Seems pretty solid. I'll come up later and screw those down. Anyway. They're gonna bust out of their wallow again there. So it's gonna be in the 80s today. It's supposed to be in the mid to upper 90s over the next few days. So I'm hoping they keep this water in the wallow here and stop trying to dig it out. All right, well, I'm back here in the shop today. So the shelf that was right here is obviously right there right now. And the floor's a little wonky. It seems to be sitting good where it's at. I got some space there to lean some bigger items into that corner. And then space over here to put things like my shop vac. And so these shelves are slotted and there's space under that bottom shelf so airflow can get under there. What I don't want to do is put anything in this corner that's going to sit flat on the ground and not allow airflow and just wick up moisture. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think the floor turned out pretty good from upstairs. The cats were in that closet all last night and quite distraught that they could not get down into my shop. I'm going to take this wall here, and I have a whiteboard that I'm going to mount, and I think I'm going to do that as soon as I get my tools squared away. One of the disadvantages of this space is I don't have a lot of power outlets, and I'm afraid the power outlets I do have are all coming off of the same circuit. So I'm probably going to need to get like I said, I don't anticipate turning this into the type of wood shop like I used to have, where I'm running table saws and band saws and stuff like that. A little more traditional woodworking, smaller scale stuff, you know, as I do repairs around the homestead here. But it'd probably be nice to have a 20 amp outlet over here, something dedicated to just whatever I have plugged into it. And then I really need to build some tool storage. Like I said, I have a ton of these old hand planes. I have some up here. I have brace bits, spoke shaves, draw knives. I got some adze, the Cooper's adze over there, wooden mallet. I mean, I just got all kinds of stuff that I would like to organize a little better. Because once again, it's not just a tool. It's some of these things that to me are works of art. Now, I do have some in these bags down here. I scored an awesome find on Facebook Marketplace. Now I had to drive a bit. It's like hour and some change away, but this guy had a tote, and he didn't really show the complete contents of the tote, but I could see a piece of a plane, and I'm like, ooh, I think that's what I'm looking for. And went and bought it off of him, and man, there had to be $1,000 worth of planes inside of that tote. A lot of them need some work. He cleared out a basement or something and just took a bunch of stuff that was similar type items, threw them in this bin, and put them up on Facebook Marketplace for what I consider practically nothing. And if you know how cheap I am, practically nothing is probably a pretty good price. So anyway, I'm like, dude, I'm on my way right now. But I love these old tools. They're fun to work with. If you've never done it, never tried it, I mean, you know, if you just want to go in and get something done, or, you know, don't really care about the process of making, you just want to get something done, or you're doing a lot of production type woodworking, you're not going to want to use hand blades. Don't think I'm going to need a lot of outlets, but it'd be nice to have at least one or two that are dedicated to some of the power stuff that I do run down here. So yeah, having that cabinet out of the way, I mean, this is really opened up now. I mean, I know I got the junk there, but it just feels like a much bigger space. And I have another one of these shelving units out in the barn. It's probably full of wasp nest right now. So as winter gets on us, I'll get it pulled out and cleaned up, and then I'll either put it here or so. Some of this over here is where water used to come into the house. I'm assuming it was spring fed, but there's, I mean, a lot of this is busted up, but there's a sink there, and there's a little basin here that I'm sure water used to run through at one point. So, you know, I'd have to do some work over here to be able to set a set of shelves. I just got my foot locker there now, and actually I think that's got some woodworking tools in it too. I got some hewing hatchets and stuff. Said I love the old woodworking stuff. And anyway, I'm rambling, so I'm gonna keep plugging away at this. It's starting to get hot outside. Man, I do not look forward to another one of these heat waves going through. All right, well that wasn't too bad. So I managed to get this on. It's gotta be 4 foot. Oh, a tape measure. Maybe it's not that big. Yep, 4 foot by almost 3 foot. So I don't know. It's an Amazon special. I don't know. I didn't pay anything for it. The man ordered it for me. Thanks, man. So yeah, it's just 4 screws to mount this. It's not heavy. Pretty easy to do. So I got my first to-do wrote up there, and it's already checked off. Hang the whiteboard. Woohoo! So yeah, I think what I'm going to do is, you know, I got my to-do list over here, but I want to put notes on here that things I need to keep up with. When I need to do a hive inspection, when I have vaccinations coming up, when I have sows that are expected to be due. Just as a visual reminder, when I walk in here, it's like, you know, I got some things going on. Because right now I suck at managing my personal calendar. I suck at managing my work calendar. So anything that'll help me keep up with important things that I need to keep up with, you know, birthdays, anniversaries. So anyway, I also like to doodle. I'm kind of a visual thinker, if that's even a thing. So if I get an idea, I can sit here and scratch it out on this, because I normally have graph paper all over the place that I use, but this would just be a good spot for me to whip out some ideas. You know, I don't need this whole board to do that, just a little bit of space. So plenty of room on here. I'm sure once Amanda comes in and sees it, she's gonna be like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing ever. And she'll take it over, and her handwriting is considerably better than mine anyway. So anyway, just little stuff like this to help me keep my life together. Not that this will help me keep my life together. Keep my life organized, how about that? I mentioned earlier that I had scored a tote full of planes, and this is just a couple of them here that I've been starting to work on. Now they're rusted, some of it's surface rust, some of it's, you know, kind of deep. There'll be a little bit of pitting. So this is a Stanley 248 right here. This is an old Stanley number 45, and this is a newer model of the 45. And I have another one in here, a Stanley 45. And man, the rosewood is in really good shape. I think this one is complete. I have, I think, a broken screw, thumb screw on it. Some of these are seized. So step number one here is to get some of the rust off these. Let's see, I got my puppy pad, because you can't go wrong with not making too big of a mess. So I've thought about, do I use a chemical? So basically what it boiled down to is, let me see what I have on hand. And I have a spool of wire, I have a bucket, I have some rebar. So I'm starting to set this up to do electrolysis. I have a battery charger as well. So I run out to the store and picked up some old school Arm & Hammer washing soda. Now that is not baking soda. There is a difference when you're using it to, I guess, be an electrolyte or whatever inside of the water to help the current pass around. So basically what's gonna happen is I'm gonna hook my positive side of my battery charger up to these, and I'm going to hook the negative side up to the wire that is attached to my tool that will be submerged in the water, and it'll take the rust off the tool, and the rust will be attracted to the sacrificial metal that is inside of the bucket. At least that's the theory. This is supposed to be pretty safe, but I got a ton of rusty tools that I want to get cleaned up, and some of them are my older hand planes here, and I don't think I'm going to start with one of these. Actually, I may start with that 248 back there because it's all metal. You know, if anything goes wrong, it can't go too wrong. So maybe I'll start with it and see how it goes. Yeah. Another one of my favorite shop tools is log. Log is off of an old maple tree that was near our house when we lived over in the suburbs. Now, that was taken down 6 or 7 months before Clara was born. Log has been with me for a long time. Anyway, there's my bucket. Let me finish getting this set up. I've already got wire running around it here. Some people say use copper wires. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna matter. This is just an old spool of electric fencing, so I think it'll do the job. I'm gonna cut these short and put a wire nut on them just so I don't poke myself with them. And I think when I hook up to this, I'll hook straight onto the rebar. I don't think it's gonna be an issue. And what's the worst that'll happen? I mean, I'm not gonna stick my tongue to it or anything and all that, but anyway, let me get this set up and get it going, and we'll come back. All right, so I got my bucket, got my sacrificial pieces set up, got my wires hooked up, got water in it, got my charger ready. Unfortunately, this does not have a trickle charge setting. Yeah, and I got my tool set up. All right, well, nothing blew up. I didn't trip the GFCI. It said to do this on the GFCI, so if something does go wrong, it'll trip it. Of course, this is the one I'm powering my fence energizer off of, and this could potentially run for 24 hours. But I'm seeing some bubbles down in there, which is the action we're looking for. So I have my tool suspended off of that wooden dowel, and I got the negative hooked up to the tool I'm trying to clean, and the positive hooked up to one of the sacrificial anodes. So it appears to be functioning the way it is supposed to. So I'm gonna let this run for a bit, and we'll come back out and check in on it. Look at that. Yummy. Now, it's only been about 15 minutes. So that's working pretty good. All right, everybody, well, with that, I guess you're just gonna have to come back next time to see how that works out. I'm gonna let it go at least 24 hours. Thanks for joining me, and I'm gonna keep plugging away on the shop here. I'll try to record as much as I can. Some people might be into this, some people may not, but you know, this is not a woodworking channel per se. But part of, you know, what we do here on the homestead is, you know, me personally is going to be woodworking. And there's lots of woodworking projects here around the house. Like I said, it's an old joint. So, you know, not your, you know, modern cookie cutter type place. There are things around here that are going to require me to utilize some of these skills, I guess. But anyway, with that, I'll let y'all go. Thanks for joining me, and we'll catch y'all next time. Suck the rust off of my tool onto, that's kind of nasty sounding. It'll, yeah, wow. You know, I saw some guy take a 5-gallon bucket and dump the whole damn box in and hook the jumper cables up to it and just go to town. I mean, they used to make movies about crap like that back in the 80s. I mean, some good old-fashioned torture stuff.